It's on. We're ready to go. Good evening, and welcome to the Orange Water and Sewer Authority Board of Directors meeting this Thursday, November 9th. Let's start with announcements. Does any board member know of a conflict of interest or potential conflict of interest with respect to any item on the agenda tonight? Okay, good. And now we'll go to meeting updates. On November 15th, 2023, board members will meet at 4 p.m. in the boardroom to conduct diversity and inclusion training. The training is focused for new board members, but all board members are encouraged to attend if your schedule allows. Katie Hall, the Public Information Officer, will now provide an update on the 2023 Care to Share Day.
Good evening, everyone. First, so Care to Share Day this year will be November 16th. For newer board members, our Care to Share program is where we raise funds for families that might be in need, and the funds go directly to helping them pay their water bills. We select one day. We've done that for the past, this will be our 5th year. And so this year, that's the 16th. And I'm also calling this the Care to Share Season of Giving to sort of stretch that out and really all these holiday times when people are in the spirit of giving to encourage them to give to Care to Share. This year, we were selected again by Chapel Hill's Arts and Culture team to have a presence at the Thanks Plus Giving Food Truck Rodeo, which is a selection of nonprofit organizations and an opportunity for families to get together, have a picnic, and give to organizations that impact us locally. This wonderful water segment coming up next week will highlight the Care to Share program and the Care to Share Day, and we'll be interviewed along with Interfaith Counsel for Social Services, Jennifer Gill, to discuss the program and the day. And we've got social media and web posts out about the Season of Giving and the Care to Share Day, and a new QR code that makes it easy to donate even from your phone. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Katie. It's important stuff. Are there any other announcements by board members? No. Are there any announcements by staff? No, thank you. Okay. So we'll move on to petitions and requests. We've received a request from 4 people to speak this evening. And I remind folks that to come up to the podium, state your name, and kindly hold your remarks to within the 4-minute time frame that we have allocated. The first is Mary Lawrence.
Hi, I'm Mary Lawrence, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm here with friends and neighbors who live in the Collins Creek community, which is close to Orange Grove Road, just off Orange Grove Road. We have numerous serious concerns about the proposed solid waste collection center on Orange Grove Road. You've heard them. You've listened patiently. Some of you have even visited our community to get a better understanding of the project. Thank you. We truly appreciate your interest and your efforts. We don't really want to waste any more of your time. However, as far as we understand it, the solid waste department's proposal is still on the table. So we're not going away. We're asking you to reconsider your offer to sell the property for the proposed solid waste collection center on Orange Grove Road. If you are inclined to work with the solid waste department, we ask you to take a look at a better location, a location that isn't in anybody's backyard. You have potential to offer sites like that. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Just a point of correction there. We have not offered to sell our property to Orange County. We've said that we will consider a proposal if they get to the point where they give us a formal proposal.
Then I would ask you to reconsider your consideration.
Okay. Next is Drew Kelly.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. My name is Drew Kelly. So over the past few months, I've been engaged with Carrboro Town Council around the development of the paved path along the OWASA corridor along Bolton Creek. The reason I'm here tonight is just that I was concerned that OWASA board members just want to understand the process and ethical guidelines around that. But I know that there's been some lobbying of town government from OWASA board members. Just wanted to, being unfamiliar with, again, OWASA guidelines, ethical guidelines, it just struck me as something that OWASA board members lobbying town government, in which OWASA is a key stakeholder, might be a violation of that, since you guys could be a stakeholder or beneficiary from development along the corridor. So my request would just be to have a discussion amongst the board on that, if that is something that those lobbying campaigns are appropriate. If not, how to avoid similar conflicts or ethical violations in the future. And then I know you have other agenda items, so not looking for a response now, but if somebody could get back to me, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Okay. Thank you, Drew. Next is Diane Robertson.
I'm gonna wait, thank you. I'm not gonna speak this evening.
Okay. Thanks, Diane. And finally, Rob Crook.
Hi, thank you for affording me this time to speak to you tonight. First off, thanks for working on the stormwater, drinking water supplies, Carrboro. It's important to have a nice, safe drinking water supply. I'm also in the water sector. I build the floating treatment wetlands, stormwater, wastewater ponds. I come to you tonight, though, to discuss the recent decision by the Carrboro Town Council to go ahead and approve the Greenway along the stream of Bolton Creek, and just to kind of reiterate some points of emphasis, which is to make sure that as we go forward, with this project, we really do examine some of the factors which may lead to a reduction in the water quality of Bolton Creek, as it does serve as a major, source of water for Jordan Lake, and that we are sure that we're not going to further contaminate that stream with increased sedimentation or increased, stormwater runoff. Most of the sediment, I believe, coming into Bolton Creek at the current time is not emanating and is not sourced from the sewer easement which runs along Bolton Creek. It's actually coming from the mill pond, which is above the old dam site from the old mill that's, on Bolton Creek. That is really the source of sedimentation within that creek, as well as some of the surrounding trails that are coming off the hillsides. I really do encourage you to look at the environmental services that are provided by intact riparian zones along creeks and intact forests within watersheds to protect our water supply. As you guys know, we don't have another drinking water source in the triangle area. There's no aquifer, there's no Castlemaine aquifer as they do down towards the coast. It's going to be Jordan Lake is going to drive a lot of the economic growth in this region. And if we don't take care of Jordan Lake, and I realize you have an emergency measure for Jordan Lake, but not really dipping the straw too heavily into it at the current time. But if we don't take care of Jordan Lake, we are going to jeopardize regional economic growth. And so I'd like to make that, a point of emphasis. The other one is just a quick question about, do you have a schedule for looking at PFAS and community engagement with PFAS contamination in Cane Creek and, actually Jordan Lake as well? And that's pretty much all I have to say. But thank you for your time.
Thanks, Rob. If you hang around here for a little bit, you'll get a good introduction to the PFAS community engagement program that we have proposed.
Okay.
And there'll be a chance after that presentation for public comment if you have questions. And Todd, could I ask you to have staff look at the stormwater issue that Rob mentioned, to the extent that OWASA is able to do that. I don't know how much we do in stormwater versus what the county does, but if there's any part of that we do, could we have staff look at that? Okay. Are there any other petitions or requests from the public? No. Okay. Petitions and requests from board members? Nope. And petitions and requests from staff? Okay. So we'll move on to the consent agenda now, where we have 4 items. We have the financial report for the 3-month period ending September 30th. We have the minutes of the October 12th annual meeting of the Board of Directors, and we have the minutes of the October 12th closed session of the Board of Directors for purpose of discussing confidential information. Are there any public comments on the consent agenda? I don't see any. Are there any questions, comments, or would a board like to pull an item from the consent agenda? I have one request. If I could, if Stephen Winters is here. Yes, he is. Okay. I read over the report and I noticed that the volume of water that we sold during this quarter was right in line with what our projection was, yet the revenue was about 16% higher, and I wondered why that was the case. Stephen explained it to me, and it makes sense. And I thought, particularly for new board members, it might be instructive to listen to the explanation. It'll only take a couple of minutes, so if you could, Stephen, that's
Sure. And I'll so you remember we have different rate structures that apply to different customers. Family residential customers, block rates. Businesses essentially have higher rates in the summer, lower rates in the winter. So any given volume of water sold in 1 month, we put it differently. We could sell the same amount of water every month throughout the year, say 6 million gallons, and have different revenues, but depending on the mix of the customers using the water. Typically, over the months of the year, as we progress further on, the anomalies kind of smooth out. But it's not uncommon. In fact, it's common for the first period, the first quarter of the year, for those anomalies that I mentioned to show up, and that's what you saw here. I expect that the volume sales and revenue from that volume will even out throughout the year. At least it always has.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Okay. So may I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
Aye.
Motion by Pedro and a second by Todd. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, nay. Okay, the motion passes unanimously. We'll now move on to the regular agenda. The first item is the draft PFAS community communications planning. Vishnu Gangadaran, the Director of Engineering and Planning, and Katie Hall, the Public Information Officer, will provide a 15-minute presentation on this item.
Good evening, Vishnu Gangadaran of the Engineering and Planning. And I'll turn to Katie here in a minute, but I wanted to give some context about this communication in terms of our overall PFAS strategy, because we've got a number of different components that are happening, pieces, and just give some context on that. And certainly at the top of that list is the actions on drinking water itself, with that major CIP project that we're nearing the end of the planning stage for, as well as the ongoing optimization of the current treatment process. There are all the actions that are outside of drinking water that will start to come into focus in 2024. There is the ongoing program that we have for monitoring PFAS throughout our system, which is the basis of the dashboard that's on the website. There's a fund component to all this between the multi-state litigation that we're part of, as well as some funds that may be available from the state that we'll be looking at.
Your microphone apparently is not on. Is it on?
It looks like it's on. Oh. And then there's this communications plan, and the communications plan is something that is especially with. So we don't get very many inquiries right now about PFAS. We get some, but we don't get a whole lot. But we're wanting to ramp up the communications plan at this time, especially we've got the EPA's pending finalization of the drinking water rule coming up, and we do expect that there will be ramped up interest. We want to be ahead of things, even though we have some information. We've got a lot of information that's currently available on the website. We want to beef that up, and so we're coming to you tonight, seeking some guidance and some feedback, and looking to come back in December with an update that we can then start moving forward on some of these initial actions. And then we know that this plan is going to change over time. This is going to be many years of this communications plan, so we expect it to evolve over time as things change. But we want to get the basic structure in place to get to a place in December where we can feel good moving forward with that. So Katie will talk about the components of the plan and how we built it. It will be available at the end for questions.
Good evening again, Chair Bowman, board members. So our proposed PFAS communications plan will establish community-wide understanding of our actions to address PFAS in our drinking water, and then we'll direct our customers to accurate information about our work. We also want to ensure that our customers are getting information from reliable sources about how PFAS can affect their health and the environment. And we identified 3 simple objectives to accomplish these things. The first is to ensure our community knows how to access information on PFAS in drinking water. Second, that PFAS information shared with the community is accurate. And third, that we provide information that's most valuable to our customers. So the purpose of the plan is straightforward. PFAS is the most significant emerging concern for our drinking water, and we're trusted by our community to provide clean drinking water. So addressing this will be incorporated into this plan and continue as our projects evolve. I'll go over the 3 objectives of this plan in detail, and each of these is focused on stakeholder groups, either folks we'd like to consult with or inform or collaborate with in some other way. And for each stakeholder group, we have a series of tools and strategies that we plan to use to reach the objectives across the community. So the first objective is to ensure our community knows how to access information on PFAS in drinking water. For our customers, we'll do this with open house style public meetings with OWASA staff and other local water and health experts, and a robust PFAS information hub on OWASA.org, and multilingual materials as well as accessible web content. For our businesses, we'll develop curated print, web, and social media tools for their unique concerns, which we'll learn through engaging our business customers in the Chamber of Commerce. And our UNC Chapel Hill students make up thousands of members of this community, whether they're managing a water bill or not. And we'll reach them with editorials and stories, Daily Tar Heel and the Tar Heel Citizen Times, both in print and online, and with social media campaigns designed to inform and engage students in further learning at our PFAS Information Hub online. And UNC staff across campus see OWASA crews on campus and practically every day, and they count on us to keep them informed about what we're doing as well. So we will develop and share informative print and web content focused on their distinct concerns in water uses. The slides are being a little slow to... Thanks, Andy. So here's a rudimentary example of how our PFAS Information Hub could allow customers and collaborators to access different types of information easily, from all of the details they might be looking for, like the data, dig deep into the data, down to the basic information. We'll also direct them to the EPA and other trusted organizations for health information and environmental impact information and information on what these PFAS regulations are, so they can learn more about that as well. In order to reach out into the community and ensure PFAS information going around is accurate, we have to have touch points wherever this type of information flows. So we'll pitch stories to highlight our work addressing PFAS to the media, as well as our community water champions, the people here at OWASA who safeguard our water every day, to fill the media with positive stories about what is being done. And we'll also monitor media stories about PFAS so that we can address misinformation before it spreads too far. It's important that the first information people learn is the correct information. That tends to be what sticks with people the most. So that's part of our goal. And we're really lucky to have right here in our community some of the world's best experts in public health, water and sanitation, and environmental science. And we know that PFAS is something that touches all of these realms. So we'll seek to learn from these experts, and we'll facilitate an information exchange between them and members of our community. And we'll ask them to be part of our public meetings so that our customers get accurate answers to questions that are outside our realm of expertise. And if times have changed, our definition of community is growing. So what once mattered just to our neighbors now matters to the triangle and the state. And what happens out in the triangle and the state matters to us here in our neighborhoods. And so we'll work with utility leaders and their communicators across the triangle and beyond to coordinate talking points on PFAS and develop best practices in PFAS communications. And we'll share emerging information together to make sure we're all on the same page. And finally, we'll look inward to our team of OWASA employees. We'll provide PFAS at a glance sheets for every office, and we'll provide training on managing PFAS questions so that every member of the OWASA team is confident in providing a consistent message on PFAS to our customers. And our last objective is just simply making sure that we provide information that's valuable to our community. This includes listening, collecting and analyzing feedback on the information that we're giving and how people are responding, learning more about what they want. So on our website's PFAS Information Hub, we'll have a convenient one-click button where requests and questions and suggestions can be submitted. And we'll also seek feedback in our community meetings using discussion prompts and survey questions. And when it comes to making sure the information we're putting out into the community is valuable, our community leaders, including you all, our board members, will be important collaborators. We'll provide annual updates to you on our communications plan and frequent updates in the weekly digest. And we'll learn from your perspectives and incorporate your feedback to make the plan better going forward. To support all these efforts, we'll need some robust and engaging new tools like data visualizations, digital illustrations, and diagrams that we'll incorporate throughout the plan. Here are a couple of illustrations. One is one of our own and one is from the EPA that just show the types of collateral that we create for our interim and future water treatment processes for PFAS. We're really hoping to achieve simple, easy to follow visuals that will walk people through a process or break down a complex issue into digestible parts. This is just an example of a graph that we've already used to display on our PFAS monitoring page, and we'll work with graphic designers to continue creating more easy to read and more engaging data visualizations. So since the core of this plan is focusing our efforts on what's most helpful to customers, we'll keep a finger on the pulse of how this plan is received by the community using social media and web metrics, customers' use of our printed items to connect with us further online, and input from our customers through surveys and feedback submitted through our PFAS info portal and an internal log of customer calls and emails about PFAS. And then we'll use those things to help us focus on the most effective and well-received communications tools. Oops. So this, I think Andy and I are battling. This schedule is boiled down from the one in the plan in your agenda packets, and this just shows when each major part of the plan will be developed and launched. And we expect this plan, like Vishnu said, to continue, and it'll be updated and modified as new information becomes available and as we're further informed by public feedback. So Vishnu and I can take any questions you may have at this time, and you have the full draft plan, communications plan in your agenda.
Great, thanks. Are there any public comments?
PFAS is be eliminated with.
You gotta go to the mic.
Oh, it's.
Go up to the mic.
Oh,
This is being recorded.
Rob Kirkian. I just wanted to ask if PFAS could be eliminated with the use of constructed wetlands.
I've never seen that as a potential treatment option for PFAS.
Yeah,
I would not imagine that would be true.
Okay. Any other public comments? No. So the board, questions, comments? Go ahead, Kyle.
I have a couple questions. One of the an objective to one of the stakeholder groups identified as UNC Health. Is the point of that to make sure that OWASA staff understand health implications, or is it to get information to patients? And if it's to get information to patients, should also Duke Health and other, maybe some of the larger providers in the area be part of this?
For UNC Health, it's kind of two. One is to see what if people are asking about PFAS, asking their doctors about PFAS, especially in drinking water. And the other is they're one of our largest customers. So we would engage with them in different ways and see how they're willing to collaborate with us.
My second question, a clarifying question, is you've used community outreach events like open house style meetings and then surveys concurrently. Are the surveys of the people at the community outreach events?
Yes.
Just one comment. Thank you for doing this. I just want to say I have been really focused on being able to have people understand what PFAS is and to communicate it across the community. And I see you're doing it also with the young people who need to understand water and what's happening to it while they're very young. So I appreciate the span of your outreach activity. So thank you.
I was wondering if you've thought about partnering with the school district, just to maybe extend it even further, both because students in some cases act as translators for their parents, and so making sure that they have that information means that their household has that information, and also because it seems like everybody needs to know this. So I'm just trying to think of like the youngest age groups.
Yeah, we have a lot of great programs that we already have with schools, and so we'll use some of the tools that we develop and create them for different age groups and try to incorporate those materials into the programs that we have existing about what we do at OWASA.
Oh, great. And I just want to reiterate what Elmira said. This is great. I really appreciate you thinking about younger audiences and measurement and translation.
Other comments? I had two comments in the meet audiences where they are section of the plan. One real fast. I'd add radio on there. That's a channel that I think is reasonably effective for us. But meeting audiences where they are, to me, is broader than just the channels that we establish and communicate with stakeholders with. It's also call it sort of the intensity of the science or something. And I know on the website you showed that you get to the landing page and then you can go dig into the data. I broaden that to allow for anyone to dig to whatever level of detail of the science they want through any of the channels. So maybe that means a few different brochures that have different sort of levels of expertise or whatever.
Sure.
And I also think this is a great plan, and it's great that we're getting on top of this and getting out to the community early. So,
thank you.
Other comments? Hey, great. Well, thanks for that presentation, folks, and we look forward to seeing the next revision in December. The next item in the regular agenda is the General Counsel succession planning. Bob Epting and Robin Jacobs, the OWASA's General Counsel, will provide a 5 or 10 minute verbal update on this topic. ahead, Bob.
I was proposing to go to the podium, but if you can all hear me okay, I think I'll just sit right here beside the executive director. I did try to be responsive to suggestions about what our report should include tonight. It occurred to me that we ought to prepare something for you in writing. And as I prepared my own notes, it seemed to me that maybe the thing to do is just to provide you with a copy in advance of what I intended to say. So we did do that, and that was in your package. There are others here who just didn't receive the package, and so I've asked for your forbearance as I go through that document. But I think it's well set up for your discussion. Ever since its organization in 1977, OWASA has been represented by a lawyer or law firm appointed by the board to act as general counsel to the authority. In the early years, Mr. Claude Jones acted as the first general counsel. He had previously been the city attorney in Durham from the era when there was only one attorney in the city attorney's office. My firm and I have greatly benefited from our association with him before he retired in 1982. I was appointed the next general counsel. Originally, the North Carolina General Statutes directed that the board of directors select and engage an independent auditor and a person to act as general counsel to the authority. Unlike the usual experience of for-profit corporations, in which general counsel serves as an employee of the corporation, in the nonprofit context, especially in the context of North Carolina Water and Sewer Authorities, the board of directors selects and engages general counsel. And the general counsel is primarily responsible to the board, serves at the pleasure of the board, pursuant to an annual contract of engagement. That's the way we've done it since 1982. In this capacity, what does the general counsel do? Well, the general counsel guides the board of directors within the bounds of the law and the agreements with Chapel Hill, Carrboro, and the University of North Carolina, under which OWASA was formed. Those are typically referred to as the sale and purchase agreements because they were the agreements by which OWASA acquired the assets of the university and the towns that were previously used for water and sewer delivery and treatment. So we pay attention to the statutes which say what OWASA's authority is. We are adverted to the principle that unless the statutes say you may do something, you cannot do it. The rule in North Carolina is that the statute needs to set out with some specificity the authority under which the board acts. Whenever you ask a question about whether there's authority to do this, that, or the other, we have to be able to look at A through L under 162A-6 and see whether there's something that suggests that there's authority to do what's being inquired about. General counsel works on a day-to-day basis, though, with the executive director and the staff in response to questions and requests, as well as to provide oversight of OWASA's general operations. In this regard, we work closely with the executive director and other senior management, the staff persons, to keep abreast of statutory and regulatory directions to ensure OWASA's compliance with statute, regulation, and again, those agreements of sale and purchase. And really importantly today, because so much of OWASA's capital construction program is financed by bond financing, every time you borrow money by selling bonds to the public, there is in effect a mortgage-like document called a bond order, and it directs what OWASA has to do to stay in compliance with the lending agreement. That is the agreement between OWASA and the purchasers of its bonds. So those are kind of the five legs of the stool that we're looking at everything OWASA does and try to make sure that we stay within the requirements of the statutes, regulations, sale and purchase agreements, and bond orders. The attached summary, which you found in your in your package of legal services, was taken from our September invoice, and it really sets out about, I don't know, 14, 15 different categories of services, and we try to break down our monthly billing into percentages of time spent in each of those categories. So that gives you a good example of the myriad of different things that General Counsel is about in its work. And there's of course also a monthly statement. You see that at the end of every year when we do the annual review, and all of the monthly statements for the year are attached to the annual review materials. Based on our, I think I said our statements and summaries are submitted monthly and provided to the board in advance of each of the performance reviews by the board. The OWASA thus obtains the service of two attorneys. My partner, Robin Lackey, Jacobs is here. You all know Robin. I originally wrote that she had been at Epting and Hackney for more than 20 years. And she walked in my office and knocked on my desk and said, "That's 40 years." So it is true, and I had not remembered it. But, I was appointed, I think, in the fall of 1982, and she came to our office to work in the spring of the next year, 1983. It doesn't seem like it's been 40 years to me, and it certainly didn't seem like it had been 40 years since she'd been there. But really, she's been there since the beginning of our services as General Counsel. And so she is a very strong backbone all the way. We've had conversations about with a number of the other water and sewer authorities, trying to scope out whether or not any of them hired as employees of those authorities what we would refer to as inside counsel. That is somebody who is working under the direction, supervision, and being actually hired by the executive director as an employee. None of the other, I'm guessing at the number 14, water and sewer authority, hire inside counsel. All have outside counsel, and there's a pretty good reason for that. A primary role of general counsel is to ensure, as I said, legal and regulatory and contractual compliance, and especially to note and bring to the board's attention instances of non-compliance. Outside general counsel are in a much better position to point out risks and insist upon compliance by staff persons, no matter their relative position in the organization. While there have been no occasions, and I really want to emphasize this, I should have made it as a separate paragraph. There have been no occasions in my 40 years when such a conflict arose. That is, between counsel's view of compliance and disagreement from any staff person as to counsel's opinion. There have been no instances of that. And while there have been no occasions in the last 40 years, it's not difficult to see that inside general counsel's work is made more difficult and may be fraught with conflict of interest in instances where general counsel's advice conflicts with the advice of senior staff persons. So the primary benefit of outside general counsel is this essential separation and distinction expected from staff, and his or her duty to give advice and direction to the board of directors, independent but not unaware of differences with senior staff. And again, I'm not underscoring that there are such differences. Everything has gone well for 40 years. It is the occasion that may arise in the future when things don't go well that independence offers a special strength to the counsel's position, and why, in our view, and I think in the view of all the other similar kinds of special purpose units of local government in North Carolina, outside general counsel is preferred, just as outside auditors are preferred, and indeed required by statute. So our engagement agreement with OWASA permits us to engage in the general practice of law, but requires us to decline representation where there may arise a conflict with OWASA's interests. It is thus expected that OWASA may need occasional legal counsel independent of general counsel to avoid a conflict of interest or to provide specialized services beyond our experience and expertise. OWASA has only been called on to retain other counsel twice in our 40 years. One of those was a complicated construction litigation piece, and the other was a complicated piece of patent litigation, both requiring specialists in construction law and patent. When I wrote this, Robin read it and said, well, really, what about PFAS and litigation to recover some costs of upgrading the system to treat for PFAS? And I said, well, that's right, we do have outside counsel. I was really thinking about outside counsel in those areas where OWASA had been sued or defending a claim as opposed to asserting a claim. But if you add the PFAS litigation, that would be 3 times in 40 years. So that's usual. She was right. Succession planning. Let me just move on to that. There's a little bit more I just want to read for you. But for some years, the board has been interested to learn what plans and procedures we have in place to assure the continued availability of quality, experienced, reliable legal services in the event that unexpected events made me and Robin unavailable to continue as general counsel. We have no plans to retire. Thank goodness somebody told me at an event out here a couple of weeks ago that there was a lot of talk under people's sleeves about this item on the agenda, and did that mean we were on the way out? We don't think we're on the way out, but of course that's always up to the board to serve at your pleasure. On the other hand, I wanted to make clear that we don't have plans to go. We'd like to continue for as long as you're content with our services. Robin keeps reminding me, well, I'm not that much younger than you are. And so we began to think about how we could supplement our experience with the experience of somebody else that we highly trusted, knew to be capable, well thought of. And Robin and I agreed that the person best suited in our community to familiarize themselves with OWASA's general counsel's work is Vicki Parent. She's here tonight with sitting. She has been in the practice of law for 30 years now, and our community is very highly and well thought of. Has just been named one of the standing trustees of the Federal Bankruptcy Court, which doesn't happen very often to very many people. And so we're proud of all of her work in complicated financial and corporate matters arising out of her experience leading up to that office. But she also has a lot of experience in general litigation. She comes from a special background as a very special softball player for the University of North Carolina when she was in school. And we remember her for all of that, but we also think that she is ideal. She has agreed to familiarize herself with our work and to be available to the board to the extent the board at that time might choose to either keep her as on an interim basis or to make her permanently a general counsel. The board is not required to do anything except to pay her for 10 hours a month for the next 3 months for times that she will spend getting familiar. She's already started doing that with us. And she is going to get paid at a rate that's substantially less than half of her regular rate, just as we have the same rate deputy tax. And so I'm glad that introduce her tonight. Thank you for coming, Vicki. She's a great addition to our team. She does work in a separate firm. So in the event she was engaged either temporarily or permanently, then her engagement letter would be somewhat different than ours because it wouldn't be with Epting and Hackney. It would be either with her firm or directly with her. So, and again, we've made no arrangements that bind OWASA. We've only made arrangements that would make her available to the extent OWASA's board decided at that time in that event to use her on an interim basis and then to consider, if it wished, use her on a permanent basis. So that's what we've done. We're pleased to announce that. I think that I won't take any more of your time reading what you've already read. Having introduced her, I'll just ask if there are any questions or if there's anything else. We did meet with Bruce ahead of time and tried to be responsive to the requests he made for information in this letter. Glad to take questions.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Are there any public comments? Okay, board, any comments, questions? Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
It's unclear to me why external counsel would have more authority than internal counsel. Can you explain?
Well, internal counsel, it is assumed, would be responsive to the directions of the executive director, the staff basis, and the oversight responsibilities of general counsel are responsibilities that I say this because, like my friend sitting beside me, don't supersede his authority, but are certainly expected to guide his exercise of authority and administration. And they're expected to point out lapses, oversights, deviations from laws and regulations or contractual obligations. And that is, I've tried to make clear the way I wrote that is obviously made more difficult if counsel is working for and under the supervision and to be ultimately accredited at the end of each year by the executive director instead of the board. Is that responsive to your question?
I understand what you're saying.
I think also, and I don't know how important this is, with outside counsel, a lot of information is not discoverable, whereas with inside counsel it would be. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's much more difficult to make something lawyer-client privileged within the office of inside counsel than it is outside counsel.
Go ahead.
In a previous meeting, we talked about how you were protecting data, and I'm just curious if you could discuss how, with having a lawyer at a different firm, that will continue in terms of data protection and making sure that all of the information is, I think you said it was delivered to OWASA every month on a flash drive. Will that just go to 2 locations now?
No, it wouldn't go at all unless and until she was called on to provide service.
Oh, okay.
In other words, she is being made available.
I see.
She is going to be educated about the sale and purchase agreement, Chapter 162A, which is the Water and Sewer Authorities Act in North Carolina. The sources of federal regulatory authority and duties, the sale and purchase agreements which we've just sent out. Those are all public documents. Those are nothing confidential about any of that. I wouldn't expect to share anything with Vicki's office unless and until she was called on to provide some service beyond this initial familiarization that's going on with sort of the structure of OWASA. But that's a great question because obviously you want to be careful with what does go out.
I want to comment on the fact of our general counsel. I think, in my opinion, it's better to have someone from the outside that is not going to be subject to our executive director, because I feel like he or she will exercise more independence of opinion. So, if without the fear, not without the fear of repercussions or to in some way offend him by his exercise of counsel. So I think that would the way that we have it is a good way of doing business. I feel safe. Okay, good.
I have a question about process. So I want to make sure I understand that Vicky is going to join the OWASA legal team with the 10 hours you say a month, right? Did you say 10 hours a month?
Well, I've tried very hard to be limiting about that. I didn't say that she was joining the OWASA team. I said that she's going to spend 10 hours a month, not more than 10 hours a month for the next 3 months. So a total
Okay,
of 30
but
hours.
that's billed
Coming.
to OWASA. Is that
Well,
are you billing that? I'm just trying.
I would put that on my monthly statement and show. what
Okay,
it was.
so you're billing OWASA.
Yeah.
Okay, my concern is in terms of the future and human resources and how they recruit and how you contract out. She will automatically have an advantage over, say, an open search for legal counsel.
She would certainly be experienced more so than the general
Okay.
population. Yeah, I get that, and one of the things we were trying to be careful about was not encroaching at all on the board's discretion post the end of whatever engagement agreement expires, and it doesn't get extended. Whether it's because we're not available or we've been terminated. That's completely up to the board, and we would want that to be a widespread search.
Okay, I'm just thinking about last meeting where we talked about the person that's responsible for diversity, equity, and inclusion is having difficulty trying to recruit people, and then the inside track is already set.
Right.
That's just an observation.
Yeah, and I can only say that we tried as hard as we could to be sure that we weren't obligating or continue with any particular person beyond the present engagement agreement. What we have been asked every year for at least the last 5 years is, what are you thinking about how OWASA might have its legal services after Ebony and Hackett, after Robin, which of course could be at the end of any engagement agreement period. So we're very mindful of not interfering with the board's prerogative or with the breadth and scope of a search for a replacement.
I have an opinion. Go ahead. I think we have asked our general counsel several times what is the plan of contingency. And I think this is an answer that he's given us as an emergency plan. If it would happen to have an emergency, it is good to have someone that is ready to serve us immediately. Even if we're not considered she or whoever we put as an emergency contact, even so, it would be nice to have someone that is ready to serve us, because I don't see that it's safe for OWASA to run without our general counsel for a month, even a month or a week. So I think it's important thing. It's an important thing that we're doing it. And if we exercise as a board, if we exercise our rights, that shouldn't have any advantage over another lawyer, because we are the ones who pick up our general counsel. I don't see that in that light.
I guess as a follow-on to his first comment, question for you, Vicki. How, if an emergency happens and we need you, how quickly can you wind down enough time at your current firm so that you can provide the hours needed for OWASA? It's kind of open-ended because you don't know how the extent of the work that would be needed, but you know, is this a matter of a couple of weeks or a couple of months or?
To the podium, please. Yes, please.
It would probably just depend on my workload. So, you know, Bob had asked if I would be willing to kind of serve backup in case he or Robin weren't available. But I do have a full workload at my firm. So what I have promised to him is that I will spend as much time as he thinks I need to spend with him for the next couple of months to learn about what it is that he does for OWASA. And if something happens to him and Robin and I need to step in, then I'll do that. And I've got other attorneys at my firm who could help me out if I needed to spend more time on this, that I could transition work to the other people that I work with. So I'm a partner in Northern Blue here in Louisville. I've been at the firm since 2001. I went undergrad here. I'm from Greenville, North Carolina, and came here to go to school. And I've, for the most part, been here since. And my wife and I live here in Chapel. So that's
Okay.
If there's anything else you want to know about me, I'm happy to offer it.
Okay, great, thanks. Other comments, questions? I have another one, I suppose, for both Robin and Bob, and that is, you spend a lot of time with OWASA now, and you know the kinds of issues that council needs to get involved with. Is there, with the exception of litigation where we've had to go outside, are there real areas of specialization that are required to do this job well that if we are in the position where we need to do a search, we should be looking for somebody with that expertise and they can sort of fill in the other stuff? Or is the work, you know, kind of broad enough that any good journeyman lawyer could pick it up reasonably quickly? Or can you give us some color around that?
Yeah, let me see if I can do that.
Yeah.
There are often misconceptions about the provision of legal services. Some of the folks I have breakfast with regularly at such like to think that being a lawyer is not much different than being a shoemaker, and you just work on the next shoe when it comes in the door. That all the shoes are basically the same, sole on the bottom, leather on the top. And they like to pick at me about that. So I think of them as I started to answer your question. I started out as on the faculty of the School of Government, what's now the School of Government. It was then the Institute of Government. My specialty was local litigation, personnel matters, regulatory stuff, keeping abreast of what's going on over there in Raleigh regularly, and indeed in Washington, not just Raleigh. But I don't mean to ramble. I feel like I rambled in my answer, but I think I answered you as experience is the most important determinant for a successful representation.
Okay, good. Other comments or questions? No. Okay, great. Thanks. Thanks a lot, and nice to meet you, Vicki. Okay, so we'll move on to information and reports. We'll review the board work schedule. Are there any public comments? So, are there any other requests from board members, general counsel, or staff? Nope. Okay, Todd, can you review the rest of this item?
Sure. Happy to. You'll see in your packets the December 15th board meeting agenda. Again, we'll be talking about PFAS a lot at that meeting as well. So I imagine it's a hot topic for us. We'll continue to see more things coming out about that. You also have a closed session at that meeting to discuss the executive director and general counsel reviews. There's also the 12-month board calendar. As you can see in the pack, if anybody's got questions about that or the pending key staff action items, I'd be happy to answer any questions. If there's not any questions, I would also be happy to move on to summarizing action items from tonight's.
Questions? Yep, move on.
All right. So I had two things. We will investigate the stormwater runoff from the mill pond and trails surrounding Bowling Creek to see if it's causing any damage to our infrastructure or any of our activities contributing to this runoff. Also, I had another one here. The gentleman that spoke wanted to know about activities permitted by board members. Didn't know if there was consensus on the board and he wanted us to respond to that, but I'd also ask our esteemed general counsel here who would be a more appropriate person to respond to that. We can send that out maybe in an email to that gentleman.
Yep, that's good. And in particular, I think he was worried about a conflict of interest. I don't see one, but I think that was his concern. Okay, good.
That's all I had on the list.
Okay. Okay, any other business before the board? No. So, without objection, the board of directors will meet in closed session now for the purpose of discussing personnel matter in accordance with NC General Statutes 143, 318, 11-6. And following the closed session, the meeting will be adjourned. Thank you all.
Do you expect to need the council for that? Yeah.
You want a cookie? Yeah, I'd love a cookie. What kind of cookie do you want? You want a waffle? Yes.